Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us. If you're joining us live on another last Tuesday of the month. I mean, February has gone very quickly. But yes, it's our last Tuesday of the month. Click Arts Foundation wellbeing session. So we have been supported at the Creative Place, which is run by Northampton Film Festival, by Click Arts Foundation. And we've been doing some physical events and then some online events on the last Tuesday of every month. Really to kind of say thank you to Click. And it seems a bit cheeky because actually we're getting Dr. Audrey Tang, who runs Click, to do us a session. So it's not a huge thank you, but we are extremely grateful to Click Arts Foundation for doing these sessions for us. I think as creatives, it can be really hard sometimes to think about yourself as a person and remember you need to look after yourself like in any other role. So it's really great that we've got these sessions, and we're going to be talking about goal setting today. So yes, if you want to find out more though about Northampton Film Festival and the work that we do at the Creative Place, you can go on our website, which is northamptonfilmfestival.co.uk. We also are nncreativeplace.org. And then come some of our networking events, some of our events that we do in person, some keep signing up to our mailing list so you can come to these online events and all that kind of jazz. Without further ado, I'm going to bring Dr. Audrey Tang in. Hello, Audrey. Thank you very much for, as I say, supporting the Creative Place and then giving some time to do some more stuff for us.
You're so welcome. No, it's an absolute pleasure. And to be honest, that's actually what we do. That's part of what Click is all about. We are there to support, and it's lovely that you've shared your platform with us. So I'm very grateful as well.
Well, thank you very much. Well, I'm gonna get out of the way. But if anyone has any questions while you're watching this live, if you are watching this live, you can put them in the chat underneath the YouTube video, and we will try and answer them as we go at the end. If you're watching it not live, then you can't. But you are welcome to get in touch with Northampton Film Festival if we can help in any way. So without further ado, Audrey, I will leave you to it. But thank you very much for taking us on this goal-setting journey, which is something I very much need. I have my pen ready. I am taking notes.
Amazing, amazing. Right. Well, the first thing I want everybody to think about, especially when we're in the creative industries, is what is your actual goal? Be honest. Be absolutely honest with what your goal is for being in the creative industry, because there is a huge difference between being a jobbing creative and rich and famous. There is a huge difference. And people don't like me saying that, because when we think about the creative industries, we think, oh, it's the time for fame and fortune. It's probably what drew me into it. I like the spotlight. I like talking about myself. I like all of those things. But there's a massive, massive difference between the two. It is very possible, and you will find it very straightforward in many ways, to be a jobbing creative, because that way you are a freelancer. You hone your craft with every project, you build up your CV, you become more in demand. And like any freelancer, you end up in project after project, hopefully getting paid more and more, to the point where you can say no. And that's fantastic. Whether that's going to make you rich and famous, that's another matter. So be honest. I want you to be really, really honest. And that's the first question you need to ask yourself, because if you're here to find out about becoming rich and famous, I'm afraid I can't help you. In my own career, which I started building my brand, I think, back in 1993, when I entered a pageant and got crowned Miss Hastings and Carnival Queen. So that's when I started building a brand to promote the image of young people through the arts. I produced a lot of shows for charity, and I started building my brand there. And over the years, I did my studies, I took my PhD, I've written 4 books, I've done TED, I've got a little TV show, I've done award-winning podcasts. I'm still not rich and famous. But I'm working, and I get more work every year, and I get better paid work every year. And I also can say no to work, which is, to me, the show of success. So that's the first thing I want you to think about. Really be honest. It is possible to be a jobbing creative. I don't know how to teach you to be rich and famous. But if you want to think about your career, this is the question that Alison Fragel wants you to ask yourself in her book, Likeable Badass. And I really do recommend that book, Likeable Badass. It's a great book. she asked people to think about the following things. At your retirement party, what 3 contributions do you want people to say that you made to the world? What 3 contributions do you want people to say? And they could be whatever you like. They can be absolutely anything. I shall give you an example of mine. My first one is that I made the most of every opportunity. And hopefully I role model that as well. And so, as an example, I know we were joking about it earlier. It's really great that Becky invites me to do this. And yes, Click funded the Creative Place, and now I'm doing a webinar for free. But the point is, I'm getting my teaching skills honed once more. I'm getting a video of this that I can share. And when people want to see me as a psychologist being able to teach or being able to impart knowledge in a clear way, I can point to this video, and that's my show reel right there. So making the most of every opportunity is really, really important. That's something that I would hope people would say I was able to do. Second one is I wanted to make a positive impact on everybody I meet. And it goes a little bit further than that, by meeting them where they are and seeing them authentically and then saying it straight. What you will also notice about a lot of my lectures, if you've been to the other ones or you've seen me in person or you know me, I do say it straight, and even when it's not very palatable. But to me, that's a bonus. And actually, that's a bonus for my work as a coach as well. Because I always tell my clients, if you want me to hold your hand, I can do that. I can do that. But my focus is on taking action, making things happen. And the last thing is I push the rules. I bend the rules, but I always keep my integrity. And that's really important to me. So to me, those are my top 3 contributions. What are yours? And actually, if you notice, they are 3 things that permeate through everything that I do, whether that's a podcast or whether that's a documentary film or whether that's a stage play or whether I'm directing or teaching. Those 3 things permeate through everything. And then the next thing is, what top 3 characteristics do you want people to say that you had? For me, again, I was asked this at a book launch, and my first one is, I'm a good bet. I'm a good investment. If I say I'll turn up, I'll turn up. I'll be there. Even if I'm the only one there, I'll be there. So that to me is really important, being reliable, being somebody that you can trust. My second thing is I'm generous. I will give where I can, when I can, sometimes too much. And I do have to be a bit more discerning with that. That's something I'm working on. And my third thing is I'm a doer. I get things done. As somebody wrote, it's actually the lovely Velvet Engine, fabulous Sandy from the Northamptonshire Community Foundation. She wrote a great, amazing article, bless her, in the Happy Hood. And she described me as somebody who gets shit done. I love that, because that's what I work to do. So think about those things, because those things are going to get you through. And not only will they keep you in your job, because you will be on brand every single time, but in the rich and famous stakes, if you remain true to your values, if you remain true to who you are, you're more likely to be sustainable as well. It's interesting because Billy Porter once said, it's very easy to be authentic when your brand of authenticity is in. And it is. It's too easy to follow other people and try and fit yourself into something else. But if you do that, it's really difficult to keep up the act for that length of time. So at the start of today, what do you want your top 3 contributions to be at your retirement party? And what do you want people to say are your top 3 characteristics? And if you have trouble thinking about that, what I would like you to do is maybe just have a think, have a reflection on this. Take yourself through from your first job to now. Okay, so just think about what your first job was and get from there until now. You will have had challenges at every single stage. I mean, my first job was, it was a great first job, actually. It was in PR. I was an account executive for Audi, and I organized their golf tournaments. And it was at the point where I knew every single Audi dealership postcode. That was how into my work I was. But in terms of the challenge, I know what I really struggled with was the fact that I was just organizing the same event at every single dealership. And it got a bit boring for me. And that's when I realized that actually, although I'm quite good at organizing, I didn't really want to do it all my life. So think about some of those challenges. Think about how you got through them. Think about the people who helped you through them. Think about what kept you motivated. And think about what you were able to contribute through that. Take yourself through that. Think about a time when your life was a bit of a mess and you got through it. Think about those times. Because then you have a blueprint for your success, and you may well have some of your characteristics. So I come back to a good bet. When people ask me to do something, and I have done some things where I've agreed to it and then really regretted it afterwards, or thought, why on earth am I here? But I've still gone there, faced it down and done it. A very embarrassing example was when I was once with an agent. I originally had dreams of being a rich and famous actress, and I did have an agent, and I lied on my CV. I said I could speak Cantonese. I can't. My dad could, and I was put up for a job where basically I had to announce something like the Olympics or something like that in Cantonese. I had absolutely no idea. And I still showed up. I still did it. I got myself into the mess, but I got myself out of it. And in all honesty, when my agent then rang me and said, they want to halve your fee, I was like, yeah, that's absolutely fine. And she never called me back. And I don't blame her. I don't blame her, but I learned from that. So again, what messes have you got into? Never lie on your CV. And that was where I realized my integrity was really actually very important. So with those things, you might find some key nuggets of success, of wisdom, of moments that you want to cherish. And I want you to think about those. And one more thing that you can do, and this is something that you can go and look for after this session. Look for what people have said about you. Ideally, look for what people have said about you without you going to LinkedIn and asking them for a review or a recommendation. If people have just said something nice about you, what have they said? And is there a pattern? And are you happy with that? Because those are also important things when it comes to what you're putting across and what you're putting out there. Because when it comes to your career as a freelancer, it's largely all about brand. It's largely all about your personal brand, whether your personal brand links with the other person's personal brand, if you're collaborating or someone wants you to work for them, and also how much you're willing to expand, adapt, and change your personal brand. Now, I'm very lucky. I come from a time where we never had social media. I had to build my brand through sucking up to the local paper. And I didn't actually suck up. I just did a lot of hard work and got myself into the paper a few times. But that's how I had to build my brand. I didn't have social media. And I'm not here to be able to teach you, this is how the algorithms work, this is how the branding works. But I am here to make a bit of a plea to you, especially if you're my age. Please do not start thinking you need to be anything that you're not on social media. Don't think just because everybody else is putting pictures of themselves staring out into space or walking upstairs or sitting on their laptop all in soft focus, that's what you need to do. Or just because people are posting I don't know, long posts about their latest run of achievements, or they're doing videos where they're poking the air and then all the words appear. Yeah, if that's not you, don't do it. And you can look back on my stuff, and I have done it. And I've been exhausted by it, and it's really not me. And I stopped doing it. And the reason I did it was because I got caught up with this desire to, oh my goodness, social media is this big thing and I need to become an influencer. That's why I come back to my first question right at the beginning. What do you want to be, a jobbing creative or rich and famous? I am genuinely really happy as a jobbing freelancer. I make enough money to go on holiday. I make enough money to sustain a charity and a business and staff. I am happy with what I do and how I do it, and I keep my integrity and my reputation. So when it comes to social media, I would always say social media is there to promote who you are and your values. So I want you to ask yourself the next few questions. I want you to really think about this. Why do you use social media? What is your actual point of it? Because the majority of people think it's about selling your services. And it does work for some people. And usually they are the people who have grown up with it. And maybe I'm speaking to a very young audience, in which case you're going to be better at it than me. Maybe you don't need to listen to the rest of this, but I'm speaking to people sort of 30s and a bit older, where it's a tool. It's a tool. We already know what our brand is, or should know what our brand is. And we should know who we are as well. And if we can remain consistent with that, that is how we will make the right collaborations. That is how we will grow our careers. So what do you use social media for? Keeping in touch? Possibly. Sharing information? That's a nice one. Stalking? We might do. That's absolutely fine. Brands can use it for exactly the same thing. Other people will use it for exactly the same thing. They will use it for connecting. They will use it for sharing information, and they will also use it for checking you out. So you need to remember what you put on there is what people are going to think you are about. I know whenever I'm about to get offered a contract, because suddenly views to my website go up considerably. And then the next thing I know, I get into these discussions with, we're working with this brand and they want a psychologist to talk about blah, 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 which is great. But it's my calling card. And so everything I put on there is consistent. Sharing information, though, is an added extra that I use it for. I don't so much teach anymore on social media, but what I do is I post things which show what my values are. So very recently, in the little streaming TV show that I host, which is about mental health, I interviewed a wonderful, wonderful woman about her gender transition. And it's a fabulous interview. It's coming out on Thursday if you want to watch it. But I'm happy to post anything like that. I'm happy to post things about when I work with Northamptonshire Domestic Abuse Service, when I promote their work. And the reason I put those things onto my page is partly because that's the work I do, but partly because I want people to know that that is a safe space and I'm a safe person to talk to about things which not everybody likes to talk about. So that is another reason why you can use your page and how you can use your page and how you can use your brand. That's sharing information. The other thing that social media helps you to do is it does help you to build your voice. It does help you to find who you are. It can mean deleting a bunch of stuff which doesn't suit who you are. But what it also does is, and this is important as a creative, you will be interviewed. You will have to go on media. You will have to talk about your work. And what social media does is it makes you become condensed in what you say. So what you say makes sense and you make the most of those 3 to 5 minutes you might get. So use social media, but use it for your purposes. Don't get caught up in everybody's doing this. I need to do this too. Fine if it is your brand. Not if it isn't. Not if it isn't. So how do we think about what our brand is? Because all of us, if we're freelancers, we will have some sort of brand. Well, this is not the only way of doing it. But I like to look at the Jungian archetypes because they actually use that a lot in marketing. And I'm going to share my screen here. I'm going to ask Becky to share the screen here of of the archetypes. Now, the archetypes that Jung described are these ones over here. Are these the explorer, the outlaw, the magician, the hero, the lover, the jester, all of those around the outside. And as you go inside, you see the key things or the key drives that each character has. So the lover, it's all about intimacy and then a connectivity to others. The jester's about fun and pleasure. The creator's about innovation and structure. The ruler is about control. The sage is about knowledge and having that journey. And what you can do is you can take the tests. There's tests out there. Be a bit careful with them though, because not all of them some of them ask you to go through about 50 questions and then they say, give me your email, and then you get spammed for, until eternity. But there are some free tests which give you a basic outline of which archetype you are closest to. And you don't need to do the test, but I would actually give them a go, because what you might think you are might not be what you actually are. And it might also not be what you want to be. So I look at this and I say to myself, oh, I'd love to be the hero. That's dashing and that's brave and that's exciting. And the reality is I'm probably closer to the sage, the teacher giving the knowledge, and that's fine. That's fine. I did the test and it actually turns out I'm closer to the magician, which really surprised me. But I think that's because a lot of the stuff that I do, although I teach, I've created for myself. So I didn't find a space for me in my career, so I made it. And I'll come to that in a minute about creating that space for yourself. But think about who you are. And the reason I like this particular image when you're thinking about your archetypes and what the type of values you connect with is it gives you examples of brands. And the way you can use this is not necessarily just going, oh, I'm a sage, therefore I need to work for the BBC. It's not quite like that. But you need to think about what your archetype is, who you are, and what other brands seem to mirror that. And that's when a collaboration becomes really authentic and successful. A really nice example of this, and we can take the picture away. So thanks, Becky. A nice example of this is, in fact, my work with Becky. The Creative Place and Northamptonshire Film Festival is everything that I love about the arts. And what's quite strange for me is the Psychologist kind of moving back into the arts field. But I've never really left it because I've always done community theatre. I've always produced drama. The arts have always held a really important part in who I am and what I do and how I do it. And therefore, being able to lecture as a psychologist on an arts platform is perfect for me, because usually what I do is bring my artistic side into my psychology and bring it into my lectures on the psychology platform. So that's where collaborations can really work. If you connect on basic values, being creative, supporting others, wanting to get the best out of other people, then you're all working in the same direction and everything works really well. But you only know that if you know who you are and you know who you want to work with as well. So have a think about your brand archetype and have a think about who you might collaborate with in order to get your message even further, because the wrong collaboration will be problematic for you. And I know, again, this is another example that I've had in my own life. Relatively recently, it was another PR company. They wanted me to do some mindfulness sessions at a resort, which was lovely, and they flew me out, and it was all great. But they really wanted an influencer. But I didn't see that until the second. So they got me to sign a contract, and then there's another contract came through which said you have to post 5 times for 5 stories and 5 reels, and it was kind of like, oh, I don't have that sort of following. That isn't quite what you want. And luckily, in a way, the client themselves, even though the PR company thought they were looking for this, the client themselves didn't actually know what they wanted. And it turned out that having a psychologist who could work with their staff and bring well-being to their staff, as well as run some mindfulness sessions with the guests, that was perfect. So I got away with it, but I don't think they come back to, I don't think that PR company will come back to me again. I don't think I'd want to work with them again, because there was just too much of a clash of what was right to do and what was right for me to do. So be aware of those things. So the next thing I want you to think about is, as you're thinking about who you are as a creative, as an individual, as a freelancer, what is your key message? What is your key message? Now, I'm going to use the one that I use with Click. You'll see our logo on a lot of stuff that Becky uses because we sponsored the Creative Hub, or we were one of the sponsors. And it's a flower, and it's growth. And that's what I do. Growth is just really important to me, whether that's in the arts, whether that's nurturing confidence, or whether that's in psychology, whether that's nurturing well-being and personal development. Growth. And I put that across in the flower. Maybe it's overdone, but that's what I choose to use. So think about what your singular message is, and could you sum that up in a few words? Could you sum it up in an image? Think also about what your call to action is. Every time you post, every time you connect with people, have a call to action. A lot of my work is a call to action. I'm asking you to think about these things. I'm asking you to reflect. I'm asking you to think, well, how can I make this work for me? So consider those elements. Also, once you have your idea of who you are as a creative and who you want to work with and how you can work with them, the next thing is finding that introduction. Now, I'm very lucky in that when I write a book, my publisher pays for PR for me. So they pay for me to get into a lot of different places to talk about my work. So I kind of have somebody to write those pitches for me. What really puts me off is when other people on LinkedIn or things like that, they slide into your DMs. And first of all, it starts with, hello, how are you? And then the next thing you know, they're selling something to you, and then I immediately block them. So be very careful with that. Rather than going the hard sell way, is actually just start interacting with people. Start commenting on their posts a bit more. Start celebrating what they do. Start reposting the things that they're doing. Because if you do that, then you're making that connection. And generally people are quite generous, and people are quite, oh, if you've done me a favor, I feel like I ought to do you a favor. That's the psychology side. That's just, human behavior. So to me, that's a better way of working than jumping straight in with a hard sell, or shall we work together? Get to know somebody first. It's almost like a whole new way of dating, isn't it? The other thing I want you to be wary of when it comes to what else slides into your DMs is there are a bunch of unscrupulous people out there who they tell you things like, you've been nominated for an award, so you have to click here to claim your award. And what actually happens there is you click here and you have to write your own nomination and then pay an entry fee. That's a business in itself. Be very careful when it comes to awards. Be very careful when it comes to things that you feel can boost your CV. As an example of a really wonderful place is, of course, the Northampton Film Festival. I've been there, I've done it, I've been part of it. I am thrilled to be up there with the nominations this year. This is absolutely incredible for me. But that's a legit award space. And you can tell because it's been going for some time. You can see the background, you can see the history, you can research. Be sensible with when these things come along. Because if something looks too good to be true, it might be. And that goes also for things like agencies and people that want to sign you up for stuff. Because it's also a little bit like when I did my TED talk, suddenly I was hit with all of these messages talking about boosting your promotion and getting more views for your TED talk, etc., etc. Now, actually, TED doesn't allow that. And if you go to one of those, TED can take you down. They can take down that video and that's it. You may as well never have done it. So be very careful when it comes to who you connect with for the elements that make your CV look good. Research, do your homework, think a bit critically. And, keep your thinking hat on, because unfortunately what happens is something called hope labor, which I think I've talked about before. People dangle carrots unfairly because they think, well, if I give you a taster of what you might want, then I might be able to get you to work for free. That's exploitation. That is exploitation. Please don't do that. Okay. So, as I've said before, you need to think about who you are. You need to think about who you can collaborate with. But there are other ways of working with people as well. You can get a coach, somebody who can support you in your career. Becky is amazing at this. You can get a mentor. And again, Becky, I know, and the film festival, they have connections with people who can support you. So coaches and mentors are really helpful. A coach will often support you in learning more about yourself, building your own personal growth, and finding your own feet in the industry. A mentor is more somebody who has been there, done it, and can actually steer you on the path. They are two slightly different capacities, but both can be really helpful. So if you don't have a coach or a mentor, go to these networking events, speak to people like Becky, get in touch with people who can support you. The film festival, for example, coming up, there's going to be so much opportunity to get Q&As with people who've been there and done that. That alone can count for mentorship. That alone can be a coaching session just by itself. You can learn a lot by listening to other people speak. But the other important thing, and this is where you knowing your brand and you retaining your integrity and you remembering who you are as a freelancer comes in. Sponsor. Getting a sponsor. Dr. Kennedy Garcia, she works in healthcare. She's also a pageant queen and does a lot in the pageant industry. Said that out of the successful women she knows, it's actually having a sponsor that makes the difference. And the sponsor is not necessarily someone who puts money behind you. Yes, that is the common description of what a sponsor is. And yes, that is what a sponsor can do. So they can back you financially. But what they are really doing is they are putting their name and their influence and sometimes their people and their opportunities and their platform underneath your work and your name as well. So whilst on the one hand, for example, the Click Arts Foundation has supported and sponsored the Creative Hub, the financial side of it, in very many ways, the Creative Hub and the Northampton Film Festival sponsor me as Dr. Audrey Tang and Click as the foundation because they put their logo on my work as much as I will put my logo on theirs. And that makes everybody stronger. So again, if you are going to utilize somebody else's platform, you best know who you are and be good at it and not let them down. So really think about who you are. So if you're still struggling with your brand, this is another thing that you can start thinking about. So this, if you're still struggling with maybe even your career choices, this is what you can do. 3 columns. In the first column, write down the jobs that you've had. And this includes volunteer positions, unpaid work positions, all of those things. Write down the jobs that you've had. In the second column, what did you like about them? And as you can guess, in the third column, what did you dislike? Now, again, I think I may have said this before, but when it comes to careers, the basic thing that we need, to me, follows Maslow's hierarchy. We need a decent amount of pay. You need to be able to live, because if you can't live, how can you possibly do anything else that's more creative? So think about that. And pay is very much one of those things that can go down there. So think about the jobs, paid or unpaid. What did you like? What did you dislike? If you can do that, you can begin to work out what things are really important to you and what things you'd really rather not have in the job. And that will also help you when it comes to not only, so if you've made that connection with, you know who you are, you know who you want to work with or work for, but you also know what you're willing to do and what you're not willing to do. So whilst you're doing that, another thing that you can do, and again, apologies if I've mentioned this one before, but think about your skills versus your strengths. They are two different things as well. And what you can do is actually go down the stuff that you liked to get those. So imagine, let's take my first job. I was in PR, I was event organizing. So that was my first job. What did I like? I liked meeting people. I liked presenting at the events. I liked the backstage stuff. I liked working with the team. I loved traveling. So, okay, it was only Audi dealerships, but I loved traveling around the country. It was great. Staying in hotels, it was absolutely brilliant. What did I dislike? I really disliked the organization. It was really attention to detail. And whilst I can do it, I really don't enjoy doing it. I didn't like attention to detail. And that's why I'm very lucky when I write my books, I have a proofreader from Pearson, the publishing house. I don't have to do it myself, because in my last book, The Leader's Guide to, one of my earlier books, Leader's Guide to Mindfulness, I nearly had a whole chapter on elf care instead of self-care. So, attention to detail, not my forte. What else did you dislike about that particular job? What I disliked was repetitive. It was the same event again and again and again. Repetition got boring. So again, you can look at those sorts of elements. And then of these, which are your skills and which are your strengths? Well, in terms of my strengths, I love the presenting side of it. I hope I'm a good presenter. But what I would say, even though I liked it, the meeting people bit got a bit exhausting. I would need to actually go and recover, because I'm actually a bit more of an introvert. I recover and rest and recharge better when I'm on my own. So meeting people is something I'm very good at, but I don't want to do it all the time. It exhausts me. So your skills are things that you're good at, but they make you tired. They drain you. Your strengths are things that you're good at, you can still improve on, but they energize you. They make you feel great. So work this out, and then break it down even further into your skills and strengths. And then you get even closer to the sort of job you might want to be doing. And I know it sounds funny to be talking about this right now, but what I have seen happen in my field of psychology is I have seen clinicians sell out because they have wanted to break out on their own, and then they want to be freelancers. And in doing so, what they've done is they've gone on LinkedIn and seen all of these TikTok reels and stuff, and they've tried to do exactly the same thing. It's very cringeworthy because it's not them. They start using buzzwords like female empowerment coach and things like that. And it's just, you're a clinician. You're a clinician. What were your values? What do you want people to say about you? What are your characteristics? Let's bring those out, because what happens is we look at social media and we think everybody's so successful and I need to be like that as well. So I'm telling you, go back to basics. Who are you? Who are you? And celebrate you. Look for people who connect with you. Be you. It doesn't mean don't grow. Doesn't mean don't change, don't adapt. But fundamentally, please know who you are. Okay, another exercise. This one is an adaptation from a career counseling group called Chopra Careers. Now, you have the grand total of 9 jobs. 9 jobs. Any jobs you like. You will not win the lottery. You will not have a big inheritance. You will not marry rich. In all of these jobs, the money you make is your own. If that is the case, and you will want to earn that, you need to earn that money, you want to earn money, what 9 jobs would you hold? What 9 jobs would you hold? So really think about this. You can have any jobs you want. Write down any jobs that you're attracted to, because the money you make in those jobs is what you earned, and you need to be happy earning it. You need to be happy earning it. And it's nothing to do with luck or all those other things. What 9 jobs would you have? Doesn't matter how unrealistic. But even if you have unrealistic jobs down there, what you can do is come back to this exercise. Of those unrealistic jobs, NASA space astronaut, what is it you like about that? What is it that draws you to that job? Because the more you get to know yourself and who you are, the easier it is to perform in any job that you eventually go into, at least for the time that you're in it. Another exercise that you can do is your proudest moment exercise. Your proudest moment exercise. What I'd like you to do is I'd like you to write down some time that you had which you're just really, really proud of, an achievement that you had that you're really, really happy with, whatever it might be. It might be, I don't know, you won an award. It might be you achieved a particular goal. It might be you did something that you never realized you could do. So write down what that might be. Think about, what did you get involved in? How involved were you? What was your motivation for doing it? What was the environment like that you were in? What were the values that drove the project? I'll give you mine, one of my recent ones. About 3 years ago, I stupidly, I decided to say to my friend I would swim the Dart 10K. Now, it started off as a bit of a joke because I wasn't a swimmer at the start of that year. And I decided to sign up for a Diabetes UK challenge where I would swim 22 miles over 22 days or something like that. Anyway, I went to the pool, every week. And then my friend said, oh, would you want to do the Dart 10? And I went, yeah, that's a great idea. Oh, my goodness. The Dart 10 is a 10K open water swim. You're talking to somebody who got knackered just swimming one length of a 25-meter pool. Anyway, I duly did it. I did it. I every other day I was at the pool and my times improved and I could swim with my head down, and I still can, and I'm still really proud of that. And I did it even when I was ill. I was still swimming, and I really didn't miss a session. I then did a few open water events. I took lessons swimming open water as well. And it came towards the time of the Dart 10. And that was, so I've been swimming now from January right up until September. So it was supposed to be, I think, September the 5th. And I went for my last open water swim at Willen Lake in Milton Keynes. I had this massive panic attack. I had an absolute massive panic attack. And I just thought, oh my goodness, I can't do this. I can't do this. But then I just went, you know what? I'm just going to show up anyway. I'm just going to go anyway and see what happens. So I'd made that decision despite just feeling absolutely awful. I just thought, well, it doesn't matter. There'll be safety boats nearby. If I have to jump out right at the start, then I just do. But at least I turned up. And thankfully, that was my mindset. And I wish I could give you a happy outcome of this, but I think it was the happiest outcome for me. So I think really my mum was looking down on me at that point and went, yeah, it's not going to happen, is it? I got a text 2 days after that saying the Dart 10's been cancelled this year due to inclement weather. I've never seen me so happy. Anyway, what I actually did was I then went off and I did swim 10K of my local pool without stopping. I still managed the distance because people had sponsored me, and I felt it was really important that I still did it regardless. I'm proud of that. And if I think back on what was important to me, was the fact that I just chanced it and said, yeah, go on. I just took a chance. I didn't know whether I could do it or not, but then I worked to do it and I showed up. Because the whole thing about climbing Mount Everest, it's like the whole thing about getting that dream job. It's not the second you get the dream job. It's the work you put into it in the wings. It's the showing up. It's the going to the gym every day with a backpack if you're climbing to base camp on Mount Everest. It's the going to the pool every day, even when it's freezing. That's what the work is that goes into it. So think about those achievements. What kept you motivated? For me, it was actually the fact that other people had sponsored me. There was meaning attached to it. I couldn't let other people down. The environment that I liked was actually me, again, working for myself. I know I'm a bit of a I like the freelance work. I like not working for other people. It suits me. And what are my core values? Well, I still did it, and I was still going to show up. So I'm still a good investment. So I come back to my values right at the very, very start. I know who I am. And so when people invest in me, that's what they get. They invest in that. And that's why I come back to, again, who are you? Because the success of your career is going to be that. I do career coaching. I see people when they are going to transition from one career to another, or I see people who are underperforming in their jobs, and that's why they get sent to me. And funnily enough, some of the time it's not actually their job that's the problem. It's a load of other stuff going on, whereby work is the one thing that they absolutely love. But for the ones where it is their job, they keep saying, I need to change my job. I need to change my job. But actually the reality is, even if you change the environment and you go into a new one, you're going to be the same person in the new environment. So if there is something fundamental that you need to work on, that's the important work that needs to be done, not just the transitioning of the career. So whilst this may not necessarily be quite the session that you were expecting, I hope it has been a useful one. For me, doing well in your career is not about the fame and fortune. I mean, that will be lovely if that's what you want, but it's about sustainability. It's about longevity. It's about being able to live well because you're earning the money to do it. And the only way to be able to do that is to know who you are. And the way I see creative work is very much like freelance work. It is the gig economy. I'm in the gig economy. I'm only as good as my last project. But if you know who you are, you know what you want your top 3 contributions to be, you know what you want people to say your top 3 characteristics are, you know your personal brand, and you know the brands you want to work with, there is absolutely no reason why you can't be successful as a jobbing creative. And let's hand back to Becky.
Thank you very much, Audrey. Yeah. Oh, these are all things I've been thinking about a lot.
Oh.
Yeah. Well, I've hit some kind of milestones relatively recently, and it does make you think about sustainability. And also it's a privilege to have to think about sustainability. And it's a privilege to get to 20 years in and then go, well, hopefully I've got another 20 years. But yeah, being mindful of what that really means.
But that's a brilliant example of sustainability. That is the fact is you've done it for 20 years. You've been in, and it's not an easy industry. Freelancing and creative industry, it's not easy. You've sustained that for that amount of time. So that says a lot about who you are. And it says a lot about what you're able to do. But that's the thing. It will always be you doing that next project or that next career. And you can rely on that. And that's a big deal. That's really important. I think too many people jump onto this next big one will be my big break, and then I'm just going to rely on that to take me places. It's like, well, that doesn't work that way, because you're only as good as each other, really.
And what you were saying about it's make sure those partnerships are really good and solid and based on what you all really believe. You learn by experience when it doesn't work well.
And people say things, they just say anything sometimes to get you on board, and they go, oh, it'll be fine, get it in writing.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and Tyler commented actually right near the beginning actually about massively overthinking his own kind of personal brand, and it's hard because there is there is so much noise and pressure and whatever else to kind of go, and also it's hard to know yourself sometimes. It is because the world is telling you what you are, many things.
break it down to these. What top 3 things do you want people to say that you did in the world, and what top 3 characteristics do you want to have? And if you want help with that, look at what other people have said about you as well, and then pick out the things that you like or that resonate with you. I know it's easy to overthink, but break it down to just the 3, and you might find the 3 actually just they might even merge together. They might same 3 things said in different ways, for contributions and characteristics. But don't overthink, just break it down to those things. If you've got 10, write them all down and then pick out the ones that really sing, or the ones where you can pick out you did that in whatever jobs that you've had before. Because I think sometimes when we get into overthinking, we can get into that idealistic thinking, and we start thinking, oh, but I'm this and I'm that. It's like, well, maybe you're not though. And that's where I see a lot of this in my field. I see a lot of clinicians now doing the soft focus, walking upstairs, trying to put themselves out as coaches. And I'm just like, oh my goodness, coaching is there. It's a marketing thing now. It's embarrassing, really.
Yeah. Very interesting. Yeah, thank you very much for giving up another one of your Tuesday evenings. In fact, the next one, which is I can't believe it, will be 6 months of the Creative Place and its existence. But the next one, it's Tuesday, 25th of March, 6 p.m. Bouncing back from setbacks. I don't know if you want to give us a little teaser of.
Well, in everything, especially now. The thing is with creative professions in particular, rejection is almost par for the course, because there's rejection from grants, there's rejection from jobs, because there's only one person who can get hired in that particular role, and there's many people going for it. But that's also, to be fair, the same with freelancers to some degree. And rejection is something we're going to have to face in anything that's meaningful. If you don't feel rejection, it probably didn't mean enough to you in the first place. So I think rejection is something that we do need to start being okay with. However, if we start taking it personally, it's a bit of a problem. So this is the thing that I'd like you to think about maybe as we go into the next month. If I were to ask you, well, actually, I'll just ask you, Becky. I mean, do you like a McDonald's and do you like a Greggs? Do you like both?
I will eat both of those, yeah.
I will eat both as well. But sometimes, do you feel like you prefer a McDonald's over a Greggs, or a Greggs over a McDonald's?
Yeah.
Doesn't mean you don't like the other one. It just means it's not the right thing for you at the time. And that's the same thing with rejection. And the key message I want people to take away from that one will be, you can be the complete package. But if you're at the wrong address, then that's not your fault. So let's take a positive look at it.
Amazing. Well, thank you very much, Audrey. We will see you again next month.
Fabulous. You're so welcome. Take care.
So if you want to find out more about Click Arts Foundation, you can do that via the website that's just popped up there, clickartsfoundation.org.uk. If you want to watch this back, or if you want to watch last month's recording as well, you can head over to the Northampton Film Festival YouTube channel, and you can watch the recording of both of these things. And then we look forward to seeing you on Tuesday 25th of March. If you want to sign up to get the reminders, you can do that via the Film Festival website. And we will hopefully finish that kind of 6 months of being supported by Click with dealing with setbacks, but also looking excitedly to the future. So thank you very much, everybody.